So this is my old Craftsman GT5000 long garden tractor, and the deck wore out on it, and a new deck for it is $1,500–$1,600. So what I decided to do is see what I want to try and do is adapt a different Craftsman deck to this mower. This deck under here, this deck pan is from a LT2500. It's a MTD 247, and it's a 2-blade instead of a 3-blade. But the tractor it came off of has the same engine as this model I have. And the way that it has a different hanging system, but the way that it hangs, I think I might be able to adapt it. And because it's two spindles, it basically loops around both of those damper type pulleys and then goes up to the engine. So I think I can adjust the slack out of the belt maybe right there. So I got it underneath here just to see how it fits. It seems to fit okay. The way it's designed on the newer model mower is it's slightly at a twisted angle. The right side is slightly further back than the other side, but not too much. So that's going to be my project for a while. I got to order a set of brand new spindles and the other adjusters that adjust the belt tension. I never raise my mower up or down. It doesn't really matter, so that part of it doesn't really bother me, is if I can get it to raise up or not. Even the one from the factory only changed about an inch in the way it adjusted anyway. So my main concern is just getting it under the mower. I can even mount it solid if I have to, but get it under the mower and get the tension correct on the belts. And then the only other thing that's different is the front, where there's on mine there was an anti-scrape wheel in the front. This one instead just has a bar that goes up to the front somewhere, so I'll have to make a bracket probably that goes up to my very front some way. It'll be a little bit different. So anyway, this is just the starting of this project. See if I can keep my old tractor for a while. So since it is new and I'd like to keep it that rust-free as long as possible, I'm going to get some automotive undercoat and spray this whole thing. And what I've done is coated it with this rubberized undercoating. So I got a box of parts today. So one of the first things I want to do is clean up some of these parts. Get the surface rust off here. I'm going to use my old buddy, the Must for Rust. Okay, so this is a drawing that I downloaded offline and then blew up. And what I'm going to do is use it to try and put all these parts back into the places that they're supposed to be. Okay, so here's the unit once it's all assembled. So I'm going to take off these brake pads. I'm going to take those off and the rod, because my mower won't need those. And I don't really care if the blade stops turning on it or not. So my mower, one difference is on this idler spring. This has two idler spring adjusters. One with a really giant thing and then one here, and this one is usually adjusted by a cable, which my mower doesn't have. So what I need to do is figure out a way. I'm probably going to have to get a little bit smaller spring, because this looks like when it's pulled from here that it actually will hit this here. So I think I'm going to get a little bit shorter spring maybe down here, and then find something that'll allow me to run it through this plate here, which is where the cable on this original mower had a cable adjustment for this idler pulley. Okay, so here's what I've come up with after visiting the hardware store. I'm going to put this spring, which is the same type of spring as this one, I'm going to put it in here and hook it on to this rod. This is a threaded rod. And then cut it off probably in here someplace. And then it has a wing nut, so I can tighten it against here, a wing nut and washer. I can tighten it against this point. And I'll be able to pull this, put tension on this this piece here, and adjust it here. And this end of the rod, what I use is this is a electrical fitting, a heavy gauge, probably number 1 or number 2 electrical wire, really heavy gauge. And I'm going to first I'm just going to leave it with a nut, and if that works, I'll probably just leave it that way. If not, then I'll braze it onto the end of this rod. I'm not sure the pressure that this can take here as far as opening up, because this is a crimping type end, but it is pretty heavy duty. So I'm going to cut that down and put that in place, and hopefully this shorter spring will I want this spring to stretch out a little bit, just a little bit, not very much, because it has to stretch going back this direction. But I don't want it to go so far that these wheels hit here. So I'll have to put some tension on there, and then hopefully that'll keep it away. Because this rod is thinner here, it'll keep it away from this belt. Before, this thick spring, which is a factory spring, was coming to this point, and when it's stretched, it actually rubs on the bottom of this belt when it's trying to go to this point. So my first thing will be to just cut off this rod, figure out the length I need to cut this rod off, because it's probably got like 4 inches too much there, maybe a little bit more. So I'm going to do that. With this in place now, if this wheel is pulley stretched up tight, then this has a lot of clearance between this point here and here. There's a lot of clearance in here. I might actually take and heat shrink some material just right across there so these threads don't bother this if they happen to get down on it. And then I found this knob is from an old pull chain on a lamp, and I used a heat gun and opened up the end and then sort of made threads and then sealed it with ultra gray at both ends. So I think it should be okay. I can use it as a handle to pull this rod into place if I need to, back and forth. I went ahead and raised that piece onto the end there. And this, I might actually squeeze this down so it doesn't come out of there so easily. The way it's shaped like a little notch key shape, so I think if I squeezed it down just at the top to prevent it from popping out of there so easily, it might be better. Maybe make it so I can still get it out, but more resistance. And it seems to add spring tension there, the way it is, so give it a try and see what happens. Okay, so this is the mower deck under the tractor. I don't know if that's hard to see or not. Back a little bit. What you can see is, right now the deck is sitting 2 inches off the ground. And I'm not sure what the actual height of a mower deck should be off the ground. 2 inches might be too low. One thing, if you project this pulley, this front pulley out here, you can see that it's actually, it's supposed to go, which is what you would think it's supposed to go. This belt is supposed to go over this belt guard, and right now it's just about equal with it. And then back here, these mounts are actually a little bit further back. This is the old lifting system here, and the new lifting system connects right here in this groove. So I'm going to have to figure out a way to extend this bar. There's another hole right here. I think I can pull that pin out and maybe just bolt a straight bar back that'll go into this spot. And then these bars here are the ones I might have to take off, because right now I can only raise the deck up, and I could only raise it up an inch, another inch. And those only have 2 bolts holding them, so I might take those off there and then extend this out to here so I can get into these hooks. And then my old front, this is my old front attachment, and you can see, because this new deck sits at an angle and only has one attaching point here, I'm going to have to figure out I'd kind of like to keep this skid plate because it's kind of nice to keep stuff out of the belt here. So I might have to weld up something that'll allow me just to run one bolt over to this thing and get rid of these 2 side bolts. And then you can see how this deck is designed. It has a dent in here where it's designed to fit up close to this rear wheel because it's setting at an angle. And this wheel is pretty much parallel with the body, with the side plates, where this wheel looks like it's tweaked just a little bit out. So I don't know if it was been bent before. Looks like I could easily bend it in if I had to. But then again, you can see how this deck is made with this little scoop out here, so the wheel, your wheel actually comes right in here. This would set back just a hair to get away from that tire, but that's clearing it there, even though it doesn't look like it. And then same thing on this side. I'd have to get rid of this. It's hard to see, but there's a bar in here. And extend those arms out to the other ones.